So the first question is a two-part question. The first is bottling your beer from a keg now that it's time for NHC. And the second part of that question is shipping your beer. And we've got obviously experience with both. So why don't you tell us about bottling?
I always like to use a counter pressure filler. So it allows me to pre-purge the bottle, which I'm going into with CO2. And, you know, always go a little extra. You know, DO, picking up dissolved oxygen is not gonna make your beer shine. So run it a little longer if it's for competition, right? Because we really care about it. Another thing I like to do is, you know, after sanitizing, chill the bottles. It helps keep down that foaming, so you're not just gonna foam.
You're trying to do the least amount of damage to your beer. That's the goal. You're trying to change its atmospheric pressure the least, its temperature the least, its oxygen level the least. That's your goal. So in our opinion, counter pressure bottle fillers are really the only way to do that properly. We both use one. The one I use, actually, I have a pressure gauge on the out. So I know what the pressure in the bottle is versus the pressure I'm putting on the keg. I love that because then I can make that differential. I can find that delta T and slow it down with the little relief valve.
One thing, Chris, that I think that you brought to my attention, which I never worried about as much anymore, but the oxygen barrier caps that most homebrew shops and we sell, you don't want to get those wet.
Yeah. So the liner that you're using on there scavenges oxygen when it gets wet. So if you pre-sanitize it, put it in liquid, it's going to scavenge the oxygen that's available to it and its job is done. So I've always been told to keep them as clean and sanitary as possible. So when I open a bag, I usually reseal that bag again between times I'm using them because I rarely need a whole batch. I just need a couple. The other thing I would say about counter pressure bottle filling is go with the idea, if I need to ship 2, I'm gonna bottle 6. And the first 2 are just my warm up. I'm probably gonna just keep them. I'll taste them later. Then maybe 3 and 4, 5 and 6 are like, I'm gonna choose the best 2 that I felt flowed the best, capped the best. Sometimes that seal when you're capping it, you just want to get it all perfect. And then depending on what kind of beer it is, if it can lay down long enough, bottle a few more because you might need them for second round if you get lucky.
Yeah, if you're not going to rebrew it, you better have it around in case your keg blew. I love having, like you said, that extra bottle to when I get my tasting notes back, to crack it open, drink that beer as I ingest those notes as well. You know, so it's just good to kind of get that feedback loop.
It can feel real good or it can feel real bad.
Yeah.
But let's talk about shipping them now.
Yeah, let's move over to shipping.
Yeah, so you got this bottle. It should be without any markings. So usually whatever contest you're in, let's just say the NHC on this one, they will send you a label they want on that front and never just put that label on there by itself. We put them in Ziploc bags and then use rubber bands around that to hold it to the bottle itself. That way, if you have a breaker somewhere in there, it doesn't wipe your label out because you get that wet and nobody's going to be able to read it.
Yeah, and I've actually, I mean, that's saved me and friends of mine that are in the club where the bottle breaks and then they'll contact you because they have that label that's sealed in plastic and say, hey, yeah, you've got 5 days to get me another bottle, so you could, you know, use that to get another bottle out there. So always put the and I think they say that in the instructions, but follow this is the time where you read the instructions and follow them, right?
We'll usually take the whole thing, figure out which box it's going to go into, line that entire box with a trash bag. So we just, you know, put it in there. So now you're putting the whole thing into, we used a case box last time, so you had the dividers. Put all of that in the plastic bag, put it in there, then put the bottles in, then put a couple ice packs, then some responsible filler, that soft material. Please do not use packing peanuts. The people who have to open these hate that. Yeah. Or shredded paper is even worse. And then when it comes to shipping, it's worth the money typically to pay a little bit extra to get it there in a minimum 3 days. I would vote for 2. I don't think next day is always necessary, but 2 days is probably your sweet spot, but it does start to get expensive.